They stopped running and stood in the great jungle that covered Venus. They grew and never stopped growing, tumultuously, even as you watched it. The author goes on to describe how the children went on running over the entire vast area of Venus, and it felt like Venus was a small ball on which, like algae, covers the entire rock. The vegetation over here had covered the entire globe, the planet Venus. So it felt like the vegetation kept growing and growing and it never stopped. Tumultuously, the meaning of word tumultuously is to tremble. Here it means an imbalanced growing everywhere, but there was substantial growth. Even as you watched it, meaning even as you are watching it, it's constantly growing like the cells that multiply. It was a nest of octopi clustering up great arms of flesh like weed, wavering, flowering in this brief spring. So if you throw a look at it, it looked nothing different than the octopus. Nest of octopi is nothing but an imagery formed out of the functioning of an octopus. What happens when the octopus goes out to look for its prey? It woggles them, it empowers it and conceals it in a way that it is not visible then anymore. So it felt like this vegetation was like that octopus that had vast spread its hands and feet, and like you cover the entire weed up into you. So like this the entire planet was covered, flowering in this brief spring. It looked like there were so many flowers and greenery, the grass, the standing and the low rising bush, weeds, everything. And it sparkled as the sun rays fell on it in this small time of spring. It was the color of rubber and ash, this jungle from the many years without sun. The color, if you look at, on earth it will look green. On earth's surface you can look at every color, every possible color, the purple, the green, the red, the orange, the yellow, everything. But this vegetation over here looked always into plain pastels. Imagine the color of rubber, the ash. It was the color of the stones and the white cheeses and ink. If you look at this closely, you shut your eyes and you can imagine all these are the shades of grey. And it was the color of the moon. We all know that the moon shines because the sun rays reflect. That's why it appears a little bright from earth. But the actual color of the planet is a little on the grey side. So the author is trying to tell us that the colors also seem, absolutely absent even on the nature because the sun is absent. The children lay out laughing on the jungle mattresses and heard it sigh and squeak under them, resilient and alive. So as the children run over this thick patches of greenery on the ground, for a while as their footsteps fall on them, they are crushed, but they stand back to their position again, suggesting that they are alive, they are not dead. They ran among the trees, they slipped and fell, they pushed each other, they played hide and seek and tag, but most of all, they squinted at the sun until the tears ran down their faces. They put their hands up to that yellowness and that amazing blueness, and they breathed of the fresh air and listened to the silence which suspended them in a blessed sea of no sound and no motion. These expressions, if you see, are beautiful. Blessed sea. We generally regard sea as oceanic, as something that doesn't have an end, right? Infinity. And the blessing of silence that is infinite is what the author is trying to say. Let's begin from where I read. They ran among the trees. The children are so joyed that they are running from one corner to another. They are running through the dens of the trees. They are playing all sorts of games, hide and seek, tag. Tag is nothing but one person has the turn and the person has to basically go and touch another. Now the turn is passed on to that person. It is nothing but the English version of pakda pakdi that you call, right? So children were playing crazily out of absolute joy. But most of all, they were squinting at the sun. Squinted, the meaning of this word is, while you try to look right into the sun when it's shining bright up there, and how does your eye shape up? You try and close majority of your eyes just to be able to take the view of the brightness, but still trying to protect, because human eye is not capable of looking right into the sun, right? So until the tears ran down their faces, naturally, if you are exposed to so much of the sunlight, even if it is a part of our everyday life, we can still not look at it. These children, on the other hand, are looking at the sun for the first time in so many years. So it's altogether more difficult for their eyes to take that amount of heat, that amount of rays into their eyes. So the eyes are filled with tears and they roll down their cheek, but they constantly do that because they love this sudden warmth, which is very natural. They breathed the fresh air. Why is the air fresh now? Because the dampness from constant rain has gone, and suddenly the environment is made warm with the sun. It's like something fresh has just come up. They looked at everything and savored everything. Savored. S-A-V-O-U-R-E-D. To savor is to enjoy, to relish, to take it to you and feel it as nicely as you can. So they looked at everything as if they are touching all those things for the first time, literally, because during the rain they wouldn't have seen this beauty, the warmth. Then wildly, like animals escaped from their caves, they ran and ran in shouting circles. They ran for an hour and did not stop running. As if sometimes if you see some wild horses, some wild animals, some wild creatures who have been suddenly put free into huge patches of land, and how do they run mad on the bounds? Somewhat like that did the children feel, that as if for the first time they had felt this liberty of being outside and running their hearts out. So they ran and ran without stopping, wildly, like creatures.